get a copy of the deck. So why don't we go through the program? So again, the California Grant Program was established by, was presented by the governor, and ultimately the legislature also approved. The California Office of the Small Business Advocate is designated as the entity that is overseeing the program. They selected an operator, a group that was going to lead the charge in creating the program. They selected Lendistry as the operator. Lendistry has had experience as they have supported about 10 different grant programs across the country. They are a minority-owned CDFI organization, a community development financial institution. They are also an SBA-approved lender, and they have had a lot of experience running these programs. For this particular program, one of the biggest challenges and benefits was a speed, getting this money out the door as soon as possible. As you all know, these are very challenging times for small businesses. And so the program was designed to distribute grants in 2 different rounds. The first round would distribute about $237.5 million, and the second round was to distribute about $237.5 million. So while there was a significant amount of interest in the first round, this didn't mean that the money was all spent in the first round. There were 2 pots of money basically designated for each round. For the first round, there were about 300,000 completed applications, and again, there were a selection process that I'll give more information about. Lendistry is also working with a network of different groups that are doing technical assistance, helping with these webinars, helping answer your questions one-on-one. If you need help with the application, maybe you inputted some information incorrectly and you need to go back and fix it. There isn't a way to fix it once you submit it. So you can contact one of these organizations, one of these partners that are working. There are about 20 different organizations that are working on this program. And there was a scorecard that was created by an internal team at Lendistry to grade the applications and provide priority based on what the state indicated were priority areas, which again, I will cover. So I see some folks, I've had a chance to kind of see the chats that are coming in, and I think it's important to know what happened in round 1 and where you might be. So if you haven't applied for the program, don't leave yet, just give me a minute. But if you have applied, I imagine that we'll be able to answer some of your questions here. So for the first round, you could have fallen, if you applied, you could have fallen into one of 4 categories. You applied, you were approved, Lendistry sent you an email before the 25th of January. They said, congratulations, you've been approved to get an award. Please, what will happen next is you go through a validation process. They will have you fill out, sign some forms, including a W-9 and including a grant receipt notice, and they will require that you link your bank account. Then they're going to be distributing those funds over a 45-day period. Now, what I know is once you complete the banking information, they do say that it should be deposited in your bank account within 3 to 5 business days. I think the 45-day number is how they're expecting to get the money out the door for that specific round. So that's for the folks that were approved. If you did not get that email, you might have received a waitlist email. They started sending out waitlist emails, I believe, on the 27th, and they were sending them out in a staggered manner. So they're sending them out in batches. They sent out 1,000 notices, let's say 9 o'clock. They send out another 1,000 waitlist notices at 10 o'clock, and so on and so forth. They were sending them in staggered manner throughout the day. The waitlist email indicates that you will automatically be put into round 2. You do not need to reapply. You were not selected in round 1. I would still encourage you to log into your portal, log back in, click on your upload page, and make sure that your uploads are there. That's just what I would do. I encourage you to do that. But do not reapply. That could place you into a longer period. It could be the case that you are waitlisted and you're now technically going to be in round 2, but you may be selected in round 1. How does that happen? Well, we have these approvals that are going out, right? And if people don't respond, don't link their bank accounts, don't whatever, something falls through the cracks, that money then opens up a new slot. So there are still approvals that are going on as we speak. So just wanted to give you a heads up that to keep an eye on your inbox, because that could be something that does happen. Third category, not eligible. You received an email from Lendistry that said you are not eligible for this grant. Why? Maybe you didn't meet the income requirements. Maybe you made less than $1,000 in income. Maybe you made more than $2.5 million in income. Maybe you're in one of those categories that's not an eligible small business that they have a long list of on their website. So there could have been a reason as to why you were not eligible for the grant, and you should not reapply in round 2. It's not going to improve your chances of getting a grant in round 2 if you are in one of those not eligible categories. And the last category, let's say you're like, Zio, I have not received a wait list, I have not received an approval. You could be stuck under compliance review. Compliance review means you submitted more than one application. And we know that about 25% of folks submitted more than one application. There was 300,000 completed applications. 25% of those submitted duplicates. What this means is Lendistry has to go one by one and filter out, is this a real business owner that is applying, made a mistake, and didn't reapply twice. If you believe that you reapplied twice, send us an email and we will be able to check the system, or not we, but we will be able to get in contact with Lendistry and check the system and remove duplicates. So there are some business owners that have sent us emails and said, you know, I did start my application with this email and then I actually submitted it with this other email and I uploaded all my documents with this second email. Can you remove the first application? Yes, the answer is yes, that could be done, and that could speed you up in not having to go through this compliance review. But of course, as you all know, there's a lot of fraud, and we want, the state has to do its due diligence, and so does Lendistry, and so therefore this compliance review is taking place. You can, and again, Lendistry is going through these in batches. You can go ahead and connect to one of those technical assistance providers to be able to get a clarification on where your application is. And we can do a search based on the application number, based on an email, or based on your personal identifying information. So these are the 4 categories for round 1 that you could be in. And they're important to recognize. Again, the state and Lendistry did just share some stats about how round 1 eligibility was met. There's a tremendous amount of need. I mean, we know there's not enough money to go around. At the end of the day, $500 million is a lot of money. However, when you think about 300,000 completed applications for round 1, that roughly is over I think it was like something like $4 billion worth of requests made to the state for funding. And so there's a scorecard that has been developed to give priority to how the awards are distributed. The priority does include some of the guidelines that the state passed down to the operator Lendistry to build into their algorithm. So these are the priority factors that were provided. Businesses that were located in high impact areas as based on health and safety restrictions. Businesses impacted the most financially based on gross revenue losses. And there's a question that asks you that in the application around how much did you earn in Q3 and Q4 of 2019 as compared to 2020. There are certain priority given to certain impacted industries, including retail, food, hospitality, health and wellness, and personal care, including beauty, nail salons, spas, and barbershops, and underserved business groups, including those that are women-owned, minority-owned, person of color owned, veteran owned, where at least 51% of the businesses is owned or run on a daily basis by one of these demographics. Now, for round one, there were small businesses were selected from all 58 counties. 77% of the selected applicants went to underserved or disadvantaged communities. So not meeting one of these does not disqualify you, but again, this was the scorecard that was developed at the guidance of the state. 53% of the selected applicants were minority-owned small businesses. 49% of the selected applicants were women-owned small businesses. 58% were business owners in low to moderate income areas. 14% in small business owners in rural regions, and 61% of applicants are business owners in highly impacted industries, including personal care, restaurant, other eating places, childcare services, clothing stores, etc. So that's what's on the scorecard. And want to give a quick overview on the application process again. So step one is visiting www.careliefgrant.com. Step two is selecting a partner portal and completing an online application through that portal. Step three is logging into the system with a temporary password that was provided by Lendistry. And step four is uploading 3 documents, although there are other documents that you can upload. The application certification, the 2018 or 2019 tax return, and a government issued ID are the 3 types of documents that you need in this first round. How do you know if you're eligible? Well, your business must have a physical address and operate in the state of California. You must meet the definition of a small business, meaning that you must have, if you're an independent contractor, you're a small business. If you're an LLC, you're a small business. If you're an S Corp, C Corp, if you have a partnership, all of these legal structures are accepted as eligible small businesses. Your business must have been active and operating since at least June 1st of 2019. And we have had some folks reach out and said, well, I started my business right at January 2020, and I had no idea this pandemic was going to happen, as many of us, didn't see this coming. And so I've been absolutely impacted. Unfortunately, this is a requirement. There is no wiggle room here. Businesses must also be currently operating or have a clear plan to reopen. Just last week, several counties across the state did reopen. And so I imagine that even if you are closed, you can definitely go ahead and have a plan in place to reopen your business, whether that means the purchase of new material, equipment, to be able to do that safely. You must have been impacted by the COVID-19 health and safety restrictions, such as business interruptions or closures. Your business must be able to provide some documents about your business. This includes your tax returns. If you're an LLC or a C Corp, your articles of incorporation, a business license, a seller's permit. You must have some of this documentation. You're not going to need to provide all of it, but you need to have something that does prove that you are a legit business. You must be able to provide an acceptable form of ID. So this could be a passport, California driver's license. There are a couple of other forms of ID that are acceptable, but you do need to have something that's issued by the government with your photo on it. And your business, if you do have a number of different businesses that you own, whether or not they're in the same industry, you can only apply one time. You yourself are applying for this grant, not the entity. So if I own a nail salon, a retail store, and a warehouse, and I own all 3 businesses are absolutely different. All 3 of them could have been impacted in a different manner as a result of the pandemic. I can't apply for each one of those. I will select the business with the highest revenue and apply for that business. In terms of the eligible uses of funds, any costs that are incurred due to the COVID-19 pandemic would be costs that you'd be able to use these funds for. So the cost of payroll, healthcare benefits, paid sick or medical or family leave, insurance premiums, if you need working capital or you're looking for overhead costs like utilities, your rent, your mortgage, your principal and interest payments, excluding any prepayments on your mortgage, and any debt obligations, principal and interest that were incurred before March 1st. So if I had a loan prior to the pandemic for the purchase of, for the purchase of equipment, and I got that loan in December of 2019, I could use this money to pay down that debt. But if I got that loan after March 2020, I would not be able to use these funds this way. Any type of costs that you incur as a result of reopening your business, so you had to purchase PPE, you had to purchase plexiglass equipment for your business, you needed to purchase, you had to do testing for your employees. All of these costs could also be eligible uses of these funds. Any costs associated with reopening your business as a result of business closure. So I know some folks had to, or with regards to state mandated health regulations, some folks had to establish outdoor seating areas. I know that that's not cheap. We heard from some business owners, even, they put about $30,000 to retrofit their outside space to be similar to their indoor environment. So again, those costs could also be included as eligible uses of funds, and any other COVID-19 related costs not covered by another program during the same time. Now, this is important because, as I mentioned early on, there are a number of different federal relief programs. I didn't cover the county programs because, again, while this is designed for you all in the Inland Empire, I'm sure folks are tuning in from other parts of the state. And there were county programs available. There's the PPP program, the SBA EIDL loan program. If you get multiple programs to support you in this time of crisis, wonderful, great. However, the key here is the documentation. You can't use, a cost to the same cost during the same period to multiple products. So for example, if I'm paying my payroll for the month of March, I can do that with my grant, but the following month I should pay my PPP. I could use my PPP dollars to pay for that loan. So the documentation piece is going to be important. We know that it's going to be recommended that you keep your documents for this grant program for at least 3 years. It may be longer, but definitely keep your documents in place. There are, as I mentioned early on, 3 different grant amounts: $5,000, $15,000, and $25,000. This all depends on the annual gross revenue of your small business. If you earn between $1,000 but less than $100,000, you will be eligible for a $5,000 grant. If you earn between $100,000 and $1 million in annual gross revenue, you will be eligible for a $15,000 grant. And if your annual gross revenue was greater than $1 million, but less than $2.5 million, then you'll be eligible for a $25,000 grant. I want to take a quick pause here before I get into the tips, and I want to just ask Latavia. I know that I haven't kept up with the chat, but I know that there's quite a bit of questions in there. Is there anything specifically that stands out that we should answer before going in through the rest of the presentation?
Yeah, it's a very lively chat today. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. So there are some questions. I've seen a few folks that are a little unclear about the sequence of emails that they have received or should have received. So could you walk us through a little bit of what that process looks like as far as kind of the contents of each email?
Sure. So let me go back to this slide here. So if you were approved, so let me start off. One of the things that I think threw a lot of folks off was Lendistry. You submitted your application, you went through the first round. The first round really is, I like to break it down as there's an online part of it. You have to answer a set of questions that asks you business demographics, your name, how long you've been in business, when it was established, It asks you for how many, the number of employees and what have you. That is the first part of the application. Once you submit that, the system should have sent you a temporary password and an email. Once you got that, you should have been able to log in, create a new password, and log into your account and upload your documents. Now, one of the biggest confusing pieces that I think we've heard from a lot of folks, we had recommended, a lot of us on the partner side recommended that Lendistry send a notice to business owners to remind them that they needed to upload documents. When they sent out a sample email, I don't think it was clear that it was a sample. So a lot of folks were asking, you know, oh my God, this is my application. It says now that I applied only for $5,000, but I qualify and applied for $25,000. But the screenshots that were in that email were a sample, directing you to please log back in and make sure that your documents were uploaded before the deadline, which was again the 13th of January. Now, once they did this, they didn't immediately send out another email saying, congratulations, we've received your application. What they did was they were sending out the approvals first, starting the 22nd of January through the they started sending out approvals on the 15th of January through the 22nd of January. The approvals notices were going out in a staggered manner. So again, they didn't go all out at once, 1,000, at 9 o'clock, 1,000 at 10 o'clock, 1,000 at 11 o'clock. I don't know if that's the right number, but they were doing them in a staggered manner. Then on January 25th, if you hadn't gotten an approval email, then on January 25th, they started sending out the waitlist emails. So this is, thank you for applying in round 1. You will be on the wait list. You will be automatically placed into round 2. You do not have to do anything at this time. I, again, would highly encourage you to log into your portal and just make sure that your documents are uploaded correctly, because we know that the upload piece was very confusing for a lot of folks. So that's the other email. So there are some folks that are still in this, and then the not eligible, you only got that if for whatever reason, it's very clear that your business did not meet an eligibility requirement. If you own a cannabis-based industry, you're not eligible for this grant. That's a clear non-eligibility email that would have gone out. Then there are some people that I am aware have not received an email yet. So they haven't gotten a waitlist email and haven't gotten an approval email. So they are in this bucket of under compliance review. So if you had applied for round 1 and you uploaded your documents and you believe you did that all correctly, you should absolutely get in contact with us. You can send us an email and let us know that you have not been able to, you haven't gotten any response from Lendistry. The response from Lendistry should come to the email address that you completed your application with. Meaning, and I'll go and I can show you guys a little bit of what that application looks like, but hopefully that clears it up. And I see that someone had their hand up too, Carmen Centeno.
Yeah, Carmen, go ahead and take yourself off mute if you'd like to ask a question. Okay. Never mind then. So a few other questions have come in regarding kind of ownership and owning multiple businesses, including being a partner in several businesses. Could you talk a little bit about what that looks like and kind of how that affects eligibility?
If you are a partner of, I believe, over 20%, so depending on only one partner would have applied for the grant, and the partners would have decided which partner would have been the one making the application on behalf of that specific small business. So whether you own 20% or 50%, you are not, that's not going to diminish your ability as a partner to apply for the grant, but only one application would be accepted for that specific partnership. And Carmen, I see that you're off mute, but we can't hear you. Your audio is not working. And I do see another question here. If you didn't apply for round one, don't worry, we'll get through the application process one more time. We just want to answer some of these questions.
Carmen, unfortunately, we can't hear you. Do you want to go ahead and type your question into the chat? There's also some questions about how receiving this grant might affect PPP eligibility. I think there's some confusion around this being business revenue and taxable income. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So we did have a bill last year in October that was passed, AB 1577. So AB 1577 does indicate that this is not considered gross income on your taxes. At the federal level last year with the CARES Act, that was already included in the federal tax code. But California, we have to make any amendments to our tax code in order for those to apply. And so in October, the governor did sign AB 1577 into law, which does create that way the PPP for specifically would not be considered gross income. Now, important to note that any deductions made with the PPP dollars, any expenses that you would normally deduct on your taxes would not be deductible expenses on your state taxes. In December, the stimulus package signed in December did clearly indicate that PPP funds are not taxable as income, and the deductions can be made on expenses used where you paid with them for with PPP funds. Now on the state side, on the state taxes, again, PPP will not be considered gross income. So when this application is asking you for your gross income, you're not going to include it there. There is a separate line or question that asks you if you've received grant programs, and there you would click yes. And then there's two, I actually want to walk through that. So I'm not going to answer that right now. But hopefully that answers the taxability question on the PPP funds. Grants are taxable income, however. So I don't know if the state's going to look at any legislation that would waive, maybe the first $1,000 of a grant or the first $5,000 of a grant that you receive as a small business. But as of this time, any grant that you receive, you should be also signing a W-9 for it so that they can give you a 1090, some tax documentation, probably a 1099 of showcasing that that is income that your business is taking in, and they will be taxed accordingly.
Okay. And then I would just also like to add that receiving other funding such as PPP or EIDL does not affect your eligibility for this specific grant program. I know that with some other programs it does, but that's not the case here. You just have to report that you received it. And then otherwise, I'm going to actually start answering some questions in the chat since we're getting quite a few. So I think we're good to go ahead and go into the tips now. Thanks,
Okay.
you.
And again, we might not even get through the PPP stuff, which is fine, because I think that this is the most pressing item. And you guys can read through the other slides, because I do want to show you guys the application as well, and show you a guide that we put together that could be helpful and we can share with you all. So some of the first tips to keep in mind if you're just going to apply for the first time, or if you're re-entering the portal to update your application. First tip, please, please, please use Google Chrome. If you're on a tablet, if you're on your mobile device, if you're on a computer, please use Google Chrome. We know that other web browsers such as Internet Explorer, Firefox, Safari, they are going to time you out of the system. There are other pop-up blockers that you might have to disable in order to get some of the features of the application. So please use Google Chrome. It's going to be your best bet. Second tip, use an acceptable email address. So the system, the Lendistry system wants to communicate with like a real person. And so any emails that start with info@ or end with @contact.com or @noreply.com will not be accepted by the system. You can try to enter an application, but you're going to get an error notice, and that's more than likely why. So if you are looking at starting an application, I highly encourage you use an @Gmail. You know, if you have a business, let's say my business is a CEO hair salon. If it's xiomara@ziohairsalon.com, that's an acceptable small business email. So just make sure you use an acceptable email address. Tip number 3, obtain your NAICS code before starting your application. This is a new tip that we added in because this was something that I think was holding a lot of folks up in the application process and possibly timing you out. So the NAICS code is a North American Industry Classification System. It's a code that helps classify businesses based on the industry or sector that they are in. Basically, at the federal level, a lot of government offices use this to be able to classify what sector you're in. There's also a line in your tax return that asks you of your NAICS code as well. So the easiest way to find it, though, is, to be honest, to do like a Google search and just put the type of business that you're in. So if you just type in hair salon NAICS code, you'll see the code and you can click on the first thing that pops up. Typically it's NAICS.com. If you click there, it'll show you a 6-digit number, and you can make sure, just read through it and make sure that that's the right code, and then you can, that's the one you want to write it down and have it ready for when you do the application. You can also visit this website. It's free. You do not have to pay for a NAICS code. Nobody should be charging you extra to get a NAICS code. If you do visit this site, www.naics.com/search, it's going to take you a little bit of time. There's a good amount of searching. Some people have called it an art form. So if for whatever reason you are struggling, you can also email a Small Business Development Center and they can help you in finding your NAICS code. Tip number 4, scan your documents properly. So this is another really, really important piece. We know not everyone has the luxury of having a scanner at home. So if you are using your mobile device in order to scan your documents, that's fine. There are some applications that do help you with scanning documents. When you take a picture with your camera, it can capture the background. It can be a little fuzzy because you might be moving or you might have it on live or something like that. With a scanner app, it's still using the camera, but the scanner app does use another type of technology that kind of helps line up the document, makes it more clear. And we're talking about important documents, right? Your tax information, your business license, your seller's permit, these are important things that we do need to be able to see and read. And so if you don't have a scanner at home, you can go ahead and download one of these apps. They are free. There are some services in each app that do ask you, like, do you want to upgrade for cloud storage? You don't have to pay for that. Just download the free version, and you do not have to pay extra. You shouldn't be paying, $8 for cloud storage. You might not need it because you're only going to be saving a couple of documents. So here's an example of what we're talking about. On the left-hand side, you can see there, this is a scan. It's clean. All the edges are nice and straight. There's nothing in the background, easy to read. On the left-hand side, big no-no. A lot of stuff happening in the background, some fingers here. One of them is really, really hard to read because of the sunlight. It looks like that one has carpet on it. So you can see here, a couple of them are crooked. So these are not usable scans. Tip number 5, have your application certification ready. This is a document that is, you self-certifying that all of the information that you're providing to Lendistry is accurate to the best of your knowledge, that you're intending to use the funds in the right way. It's a 4-page document that says, my name is so-and-so. I intend to use these grants for eligible cost. I am an eligible business. I'm not, in an illegal type of business. I am the rightful owner of said establishment. And you can see the link there. There are 2 different application certifications. One is for-profit, one is for nonprofits. Again, we are covering information only for for-profits today. And so, but once you get access to the PowerPoint, you will see there the other link. You can go ahead and download it and fill it out by hand, or you can do it electronically. The last page, you will initial all the different areas that it asks you to initial. And on the last page, it asks you to put your name, the name of your business, your address, your employer identification number, which is a number that identifies your business. If you have employees, you do have an EIN. If you don't have employees, you could have gotten an EIN a long time ago when you started your business. It's free through the IRS. Some people use it because they don't want to share their social security. So for example, I used to have a consulting business and I didn't really like sharing my social security. So I had an EIN number, which you can fill out W-9 forms and stuff like that. It'll ask you for that, or if you don't have that, it'll ask you for your social security. And if you don't have that, it'll ask you for your ITIN, your individual taxpayer identification number. So there's one line where you put that information in. And then I think it asks you for the date, if I'm not mistaken. So it's super easy. And this is another step that I think a lot of folks, when they're getting to the upload part, they don't have it handy. So it's taking them a while to go back into the system to upload it as well. Again, so here's the document, and we'll try to open it as well. So you can see there the pages that you need to initial, and the last page is kind of hard to read. So I had to zoom in, but it asks you for several different pieces of information. So let's go back. You haven't started an application. You're going to visit www.careliefgrant.com. Tomorrow, the application will open at 8 a.m. You're going to select a partner. You're going to complete an online application. You're going to log into your system, and you're going to upload 3 documents. If you've started an application in round 1, well, actually, I'll say that in a minute. Once you log into the system, if you see this screen, this means that you did not submit your application. You'll have to click on Edit Application, and you'll have to make sure that all the information is completed, and you'll have to hit Submit, and then you'll be able to see this screen. This screen, when you log in, will give you your DIR, your application number. This is really, really important. It'll give you the amount that you requested, and it'll show you that you need to upload your banking information. Now, I should note that this is probably going to stay there throughout the whole process. Whether you complete your application, you upload everything, it's still going to be there. That's just how the system and the coding works. Once you're here and you click on Upload Documents and Bank Info, then you'll see this screen. You will see each item that you need to upload, and here it lists everything. In round 1, in this first round or stage of the application, you have to do the online application, then you upload documents. Once that's done, Lendistry selects their grant recipients. Once you're selected, then you go through validation. So you have to provide, possibly at this stage, your business license or your seller's permit or your articles of incorporation, and you have to link your bank account. You could do that now. You do not have to do that now, because that step is only once you have been selected to receive the grant award. So one thing to note on this screen when you get into the system is you have to actually physically move your mouse, click on it, click on application certification, click browse, and click upload. You have to get your mouse, click government issued ID, click on it, browse, upload. Click on your taxes, browse, upload. If you don't do that, this gray box is going to stay on application certification, and you could be uploading your documents. However, these are going to stay red because you're uploading them as if they are all under the application certification. So your documents might be in there, but these are still going to be red. So you're going to want to click, make sure you click on each one, browse, and upload. Once you do that, you'll see your files on the bottom of the screen, and all of these red pendings should have turned from red pending to green completed. And here are the title of the type of document that you're going to upload, and here are your documents' names. So I just If it were me uploading my application, I would probably scan my driver's license and put, Ex Peña driver's license, and then maybe I'll put, Ex Peña taxes, just so that I know, that I have a way of checking how my documents are in here. And you can preview and make sure that they're there. Now, one thing that we were getting a lot of calls about was once you are on this screen, there's a save button down here, and people were trying to click on that. But because this one is still pending, the system's basically telling you like, no, wait, you haven't finished. You need to link your bank account, but you don't have to do that in this step. To override that, you can exit. Don't worry. If you see your documents are in here and you see that these turn to green, your documents are in the system. That is called a soft save. So if you try to click on that save button and a pop-up box says, you need to still link your bank account, do not have to do that in this step. You can close the page, open a new window, log back in, and you should be able to see your files uploaded once you click on the upload files, and you should be able to see all your files are still in there. And that's the application. That's the first part of the application. Now, I want to pause really quickly. I know we only have a few more minutes, so I do want to just show you guys how to navigate the website and what the application looks like. And let me actually open up one more document. Okay, so once you log into the website, www.careliefgrant.com, you will see the website. It's going to be in English. If you need it translated into another language, you can click the translate button and you will be able to get all of the information translated into said button. You can see here, you want to log in and see the updates. Right now, round 2 will open tomorrow at 8 a.m. and it will close on February 8th. That's right, February 8th at 6 p.m. Short window to get this part done. So we don't know if they will extend it, but as of right now, Lendistry did get, when they were selected to get this, contract, the state made it clear they want this money to be distributed to businesses as quickly as possible before the end of March. March 31st is right around the corner. It'll be here before we know it. This is not based in a lottery system. This is not based on first come, first serve. There is that scorecard where they're looking at those priority factors in order to be able to assess the biggest impact for the dollars. So I also know that there were a lot of concerns around the call center, folks calling and waiting for 2+ hours and not being able to get through. Again, you have a direct line of access to Lendistry via us. So we will be working, and I'm certain that my eyes will not look this way a whole week from now. So please, please, please do not hesitate to send us an email. We are here to support you, whether it's a question that you have about the application or you're having trouble uploading documents. We were on the phone helping folks on the first round. We will be doing that for this next round. Once you get here, all of the information that we walked through, the deadlines, the eligibility, the grant amounts, how the priority areas, all of that is in here. I didn't talk about the ineligible businesses, but you can go in here and read all about that. All of this information is available. You could also go ahead, and they have here, I want to point out this, which is their application guide. This application guide is 80 pages, but it also tells you a little bit more about the program. It tells you some of those FAQs. This is really important. So I would just go through it. If you do have like 10 minutes, you know, scan through it. There are some tips. So for example, I didn't know this, but every time you're searching a website, there's collecting cookies on you or something like that. So you might have to clear your cache in order to be able to start your application, you know, to get back into your application and the system not to be giving you a problem. A lot of us have pop-up blockers also, and I would disable that when you're getting ready to start your application, because there are a couple of sections where it sends you a notice. Mainly when you're about to submit your application, there's a box that pops up and says, hey, you're about to submit this application. Are you ready to continue? If you have your pop-up disabled, you're just going to get a notice that says like not able to move on to the next stage. So you might be under the impression that you've gone through the whole thing and you've submitted it, but there's a box where you actually have to physically type in yes in order to submit your application. So this guide walks you through all of the questions on the grant program, everything that's on the application. I don't know about you guys, but 80 pages is a lot. So I know that you might have some questions, so I will share with you a document that we put together so you can see the questions that are there. But the application guide is here for for-profit businesses and for nonprofit businesses. Now, let's say you're ready to apply. You can go through apply through a partner, right? This is the top of the website, apply through a partner. You can go through select by county. I'm going to click Riverside. And you're going to see all of these different organizations. Each one of these organizations is a partner with Lendistry in this effort in getting the word out. They're doing webinars, they're doing technical assistance, etc. AMPAC is here in the Riverside region. Highly encourage you all to apply with them. The Small Business Development Center is also a great partner. All these partners are great partners. I do want to note that the SBDC did experience a lot of traffic day one and last day. So, and that's because SBDCs are statewide and they have a bunch of different locations. I think the first round, the first day, they fielded over 20,000 phone calls the first day. So you can just imagine the traffic that that site and that portal was experiencing. But if you've worked with your SBDC, you can go ahead and apply. It is really, 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 really important that you recognize that regardless of if you select the Asian Business Association or Cal Nonprofits, that is not going to impact your application. It's not going to impact your application, but each one of them does have these apply now buttons. What's important to note is if you click on it, this is what it looks like with the Asian Business Association. Okay, let me go back here. This is what it looks like with AMPAC. They look exactly the same, but they are different. The URL is different. So they are different windows that are, established. And so we saw a lot of folks apply to one group, one partner, didn't go back to the same portal. They were trying to use their login to enter a different partner portal, and they were having trouble getting into their portal. If you forgot what partner you use, you can always reach out to us. If you're starting for the first time, just remember which partner it is. Write down the URL code, copy it, make a note on a sticky note, just remember. Once you do that, you're going to visit the screen. You're going to click here to apply. There's two boxes. The box on the left-hand side is for for-profit small businesses, and the box on the right-hand side is for nonprofit businesses. I know they look exactly the same, but over here it says for-profit and nonprofit. So you can click on Apply Now. And here's the application. Now, I'm not going to go through this, but I do want to say, once you complete this first part and you hit continue, you have started your application. If you just completed this, actually, let me just show you. All right, once you do this, you have started your application. There are all these questions here, all these questions, but in this first box, you provided your email address to the system. So if I was to close this out right this minute and try to start all over, I'm gonna get a notice that says, you already started an application. Why? Because I have already started by hitting continue here. I have started my application. The system has my email address, so they will be sending me a temporary passcode shortly. So I do also want to share, let me share one more item because I'm looking at the time and we just don't have all of the time to go through all of the questions, but I do want to share with you guys, and I'm happy to email this as well. Our organization, we put together this document. It really provides you a snapshot of things that you can prepare in advance. The smoothest applications that we've seen, and we did a couple on our own, I would say more than a couple, a few, is having everything ready and getting it done all at one time. Since the application will open at 8 a.m. tomorrow, for sure, experience a high number, like there will be a lot of traffic. The other thing that is recommended is if you have a lot of households in your household all using the internet at the same time, maybe try doing it a little bit when there's less bandwidth issues in the home, because that can take more time uploading stuff into the system. So this guide that we put together, again, this is not an application. We don't want anybody to think that this is the application. This is a guide with some of our notes that we thought were helpful for you as you complete the application. So, you know, it asks you your first name, your last name. It asks you for the percentage of ownership. It asks you for some demographics of your business. Pardon me. It asks you the type of business that you're in, the number of employees that you're in. And we have some of our notes here to kind of help any questions that you might have on the application questions. And then we do have some, then we do have some tips here and a link to the application certification. So all to say, there's a lot of stuff that we went through and we didn't even get through the federal relief program. So it gives you an understanding of how many questions there are on this grant program. We know there's an immense amount of need. As I mentioned, 300,000 completed applications in the first round. There is $237.5 million designated for the second round. It's not on a first come, first served basis. If you have questions about your existing grant or this grant process all around, feel free to reach out to us and we'd be more than happy to answer those questions. We are also hosting, every day we will be hosting daily webinars. So if for whatever reason you wanna check in tomorrow, I think our webinar will be at 10 o'clock, but every day after that, our English webinars are gonna be at 1 o'clock and our Spanish webinars are gonna be at 4:30 p.m. If for whatever reason please, the one thing that we do ask is that you share this information with your fellow business owners, because we know that this is information that they all need. We also will have federal webinars. We do have team members nationally that are providing updates on webinars. However, this week, I think the California folks are gonna be focused on this grant program, but I believe we have 2 next week with the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So we have one on the 10th in English and on the 11th in Spanish. So you can register for those on our event calendar. All of our events are free. We know that we have a lot of questions. I also want to mention that the governor did in his January budget propose an additional $500 million for the grant program. That would bring this total grant program, if it is approved, to $1 billion. Again, I just don't want to underscore the numbers, because when I saw them, they were shocking, but not, because again, there are 4.1 million businesses in California. The $500 million sounds like a boatload of money, but when you divide it in $5,000 and $15,000 and $25,000 amounts, 300,000 applications, that's over $4 billion in requests. There is not enough money to go around. We know that. We need your voices to help also make the case as to why more dollars are needed for these types of programs. So the other thing that I would ask is that you send us a quick email about 1 or 2 sentences of how this grant would support you. And important to note, yes, we recognize there's a lot of challenges happening at the state level with many different programs. That's one thing we don't want to see happen with this program. And so we're really excited about the transparency measures that are being taken into account by Lendistry, the operator, who's also ran these programs in other states. And I've talked for a long, long time, so I do want to just turn it over to Edward, since this is your show. If you have any last minute remarks, I know we walked through a lot of information, so I really appreciate you guys and your patience in tuning in. Edward?
My pleasure. Thank you, Samara. As always, you provided a great amount of information. I am recording this webinar, so I will share it. I will share the video with all of you by the end of the day. I just need it to download, and then I have to upload it to YouTube. That's the best way to share. So look out for an email from the chamber by end of day. And once again, Samara, thank you for doing such a great job.
Thank you. And Edward, you do have email addresses for folks, so we can send them the deck and the guide?
Yes, I'll send you everybody's email address so you can follow up.
Awesome. Thank you. So we'll get that out to you guys ASAP.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Thanks, Latavia, for helping out in the chat.
Thanks, Yamara. Thanks, Edward. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Bye.